Because we've all had to wait to be finally heard. There are millions of us out there joining our cause, and it is together, bound by this cherished heritage, that we will show them who we are.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is miahtheking, and today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam today called SuperPower 3, developed by Golem Labs and published by THQ Nordic. Now, according to Steam, this game is a modern political simulator for Earth. You take the place of a ruler of some kind and try to, well, rule your country, basically. Now, at first I didn't really see the appeal of this game, but it did say a fun little thing in its description, which is you can play against other players or real-life politicians. Now, that just sounds really interesting. Now, you wouldn't be playing against, like, politicians, like, for real. That's not what I mean, but basically comparing yourself to how other politicians, or maybe the AI is designated to work like the politicians at that time frame did or whatever. So it sounded really interesting. It's an RTS game, by the way, no turns, along with being a simulation, which means it's going to have, you know, that kind of gameplay, no pausing and no turn-based stuff. Now, before you ask in the comments below, I did not play SuperPower 1 or 2, if those even exist. I heard that 2 exists, don't know anything about 1, but this is my first time seeing this game. But I don't think that should matter. I have a pretty good idea of how video games work, I think, and I'm pretty good at learning games, especially in-depth, detailed ones with a lot of text like this, so I figure I should be able to figure it out within an hour or two. So, you know. Now then, let's dive into this sucker and see if this game is really worth our time and money, shall we? So, it's pretty much just a government simulator, as I briefly described earlier. You take a position as the leader of any one of over 100 different countries. Pretty cool idea so far. Then lead your country in all things politics, economics, and military. Lead your country in whatever way you see fit and see how the world and your own country respond or react to your choices. A pretty cool idea, which was why I was so interested in playing it. So it starts off pretty cool. Cool cutscene, good voice acting. Sitting here thinking, okay. Going into it, I'm getting more and more excited. Now, this game is not in early access, and for me, it was asking for $30 American. I just wanted to say that before I forgot. Anyway, I chose to play as America because I just wanted to, since I'm more or less familiar with how things work here, or at least more so than any other country, and I wanted to basically take over the world. So anyway, I'm thinking it's pretty cool so far, until I jump into the game. Now I'll go into the negatives here in a moment, but first I wanted to go over the positives. You know, let's get those out of the way. Let's see, something positive. Okay, I like how complex it is, and how much information is there. It is a ton of stuff to learn, but it all seems to make a lot of sense, more or less, from what I could decipher, that is. I like how you can play as any country in the world. I like the beginning cutscene, and I think that's about it. Okay, all that list of positives out of the way, let's go into the negatives now. Okay, look, this game is pretty awful overall, guys. I'm sorry. This is probably going to be a very short video, but this game is just awful. I mean, it plops you right down in the middle of this game without a single tutorial. Nothing. It teaches you nothing. There aren't even any little bubbles that pop up and give you little text. Even a crappy tutorial I would have preferred to this. But look at this screen. You seeing what I'm playing and watch throughout the rest of the video. You see what I'm doing right here and all this stuff you have to look at. Doesn't it seem a bit confusing or perhaps overwhelming? Yeah, it is. And the game doesn't teach you or tell you diddly. Okay? So, right off the bat, I was annoyed because I was instantly thrown into a giant garbage can filled to the brim with dirty, smelly information. As for everything else I normally look at, well, I can't really judge the graphics. It barely has any. It's just a map of Earth. It has no details. No zoom-in functions to see cities or troops. I mean, it does have a zoom-in function, but it doesn't really do anything. So it doesn't have any of that. So the graphics are... What about sound effects? Well, other than the voice acting in the beginning, it has no more voice acting. And all you get is this background music, which I'll admit is kinda pleasant, I suppose. It does kinda help immerse you into what this is. And the gameplay? Well, it's pretty laughable if I'm being honest. I get it being complicated, and that's fine. Maybe give a tutorial to people who've never played the prequels before, huh? Or people who just need a refresher? I mean, why wouldn't you put a tutorial with a game as complicated as this? It's just so dumb. It's actually unbelievable to me. I'm actually baffled why, with such a complicated game, you would have no tutorial or anything like that. But anyway, back to the gameplay being broken. Apart from the constant stuttering and freezing, the gameplay is pretty nonsensical. I mean, my approval rating was at 51%. I randomly declare war against Mexico. Sorry, Mexico. And my approval rating actually went up by 3%. I mean, what the hell? It was a pointless, needless and cruel war in my bid to take over the world, and yet my American people just didn't seem to care. I'm playing as a Democrat, by the way, and Republicans are evil, I guess. I can make their party illegal or something, which also doesn't really make much sense. As for the combat, what combat? I literally just grabbed most of my army, shoved them into Mexican territories, and bam, conquered them. No cutscenes, no news reports, no nothing. Then I had to annex them. Again, nothing happened. Just a tiny little loading screen followed by a pop-up saying you annexed them. So, the war function is boring. The political nonsense is boring. Managing my country is kind of interesting, but it didn't seem to make any difference no matter what options or policies I chose. So, that was boring. I even won my re-election and didn't even realize it. I mean, the game brought no attention to this at all. Just a little tiny thing that popped up and said you won. I would have missed it if I wasn't paying attention. No political speeches or parties or anything. I was hoping this game would at least give cutscenes for certain events, you know? You took out an enemy army, small cutscene. You're having a diplomatic discussion with another country, small cutscene. Re-election is coming up. Maybe you choose how to run your campaign, have a debate, have a cutscene of your winning speech or losing speech or something, just anything. But no, it all comes and goes in a blur of random text and without any fanfare. Man, I gotta say, this game, from the Steam store page advertisements, was a huge disappointment. They totally led me on to believe this was going to be a completely different experience. I went into this so freaking excited. Ugh, what I wouldn't give for a good version of a game like this, with maybe a little bit less information and more cutscenes. Oh, did I mention they make you start out as Democrat? I know I said earlier that I was Democrat, but I didn't choose that. They made me choose that. You can't choose which party you belong to. And I'm guessing it's going to be the same depending on the situation for every country. You don't get to pick which side of the fence you're on. The sliders are a bit off and sometimes don't work. The UI is kind of confusing and also sometimes doesn't work. It's like my mouse only works half the time. I can't tell if when I'm clicking on something if it's working or if it's waiting to load. I have no flippin' idea. Now maybe if I'd played the first two and knew what I was doing, I could have had a little bit more fun. But it doesn't negate the fact that there is clearly content missing and it's a game full of bugs and glitches to the point it's almost unplayable. And quite frankly, I was bored out of my mind. You're probably bored out of your mind watching this. There's no fast forward button either, so everything moves at a snail's pace. I just conquered Mexico, and no one in the world, including my own country, cares, and I'm pretty sure that's not realistic. Also, the game wouldn't let me use nukes at all, and boy did I try everything I could think of to get them to work. Now, honestly, I was just trying to play and have fun and goof off, you know, turn America into this world-conquering villain and use my nukes to bomb everything and take over everything, but the game wouldn't let me do anything. Either because it was broken, or it just won't let you do that kind of stuff. I don't know, it's so hard to tell at this point. I've also read a lot of different comments from a lot of different people out there who were fans of the series complaining about how the multiplayer isn't working, the game is a disappointment, yada yada yada. You get the point yet? The game is hot garbage. Now, if you're a fan of this title, I deeply apologize for giving your game a bad review, but you gotta see how broken and empty this is. Demand more from your game devs, or they'll keep putting out crap like this. If you're a fan of this title, I beg you to please wait until this game gets some much needed updates. Those game-breaking bugs and glitches need to be fixed, more content needs to be added, and everything else just needs an overall update and quality enhancement. For $30, they expect you to pay $30 for this broken, empty game. This is why I started my YouTube channel. As the game is right now, it does not deserve your money or your time, and I would highly recommend everyone either pass on this or wait a year for some serious updates. Okay, everybody? So that's all the time I got for this episode today. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and leave me a comment if you have questions or concerns. Thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.